Got one little pallet on here with a few little metal pieces on it. And I show up over here and nobody knows anything about it. First they gave me the wrong address. I love it when that happens. Then I go to shipping and receiving. They don't know where it goes. They said, oh, go over to the warehouse. Go over to the warehouse. And then this guy right here says, I think that goes in the back. Give me a few minutes. So I'm waiting around 10, 15 minutes. He comes back, takes a picture of it. And he says, okay, follow me to the back. So that's where we're headed. Welcome back. Hope you're all doing well. I did something a little bit different this week. I just used my small box truck. I left the trailer at home, and the reason why is I get so many comments. See it on the forums every day of Facebook, and people saying you can never make money in that type of truck. Don't buy it. You'll waste your money. You'll go bankrupt. So what I wanted to do was just basically prove a point. I got this comment. I've been putting out my numbers every week, and I got this comment a couple weeks ago on a video I put out where I made over $2,000 during the week, bring home, and I was just like, what are people expecting? I'm not sure. There was a time when you could jump in a big truck and you can gross $10,000 a week. You're not doing it now. People are holding on. A lot of people are going out of business. But what I wanted to do was, there are a lot of people out there that just want to go out and get them a cheap truck and make a good living. And you can do that in the small box truck that I've got. The thing that scares people with this, and I say it a lot, is I am not dock height and I don't have a lift gate. So that really limits me on the loads I can get. But that doesn't mean I can't make money. And I'm going to prove the point right here. Last week, I picked up my first load on Wednesday and was from Dallas to South Dakota. It paid under $1 a mile. And when I say that, I have these guys say, oh, you're taking this cheap freight. And, that's a whole other subject. But one thing I'll say about that is, drivers don't set the rates. It's supply and demand. If there's one load and 10 drivers, guess what? Somebody's going to be having to pay a bill. So they're going to take that thing for what, to just pay their fuel bill or their truck payment. So it's not about how well drivers negotiate. Because if it was about that, nobody'd be complaining. Whoever called that agent first would get the rate they wanted, right? Every single time. They just negotiate all the money out of it and get whatever they wanted. It's all about supply and demand. Right now, there's 5 trucks for every load. So the rates are low, fuel is high, and people are going out of business because they don't understand that. And their overhead is outrageous. But last week, I do partials, only partials. Everything that can go on my truck and trailer is a partial. So it's just cut rates for partials. I booked the first load from Dallas to South Dakota, paid $800. I believe that's what it was. But I knew from looking at the load boards that something else was going to pop up going in that direction. And sure enough, I waited around Dallas about an hour and a half. I had a little time to waste. And I found another load going to Nebraska, which was exactly on my route. Worked out perfectly where I dropped that first partial off the very next morning. And then later on in the day, I dropped the second partial off, made $1,300 in a day and a half. Partials, they don't pay much. But the 2 partials that I got, one of them was 2 golf cart roofs, 2 little plastic golf cart roofs that weighed less than 100 pounds. The second one was a small crate that weighed about 90 pounds. So 2 partials. I could have gotten several more on there if they would have landed on the board, but I just didn't have enough time to wait around. It was one of those situations where I needed to get up there and get unloaded in South Dakota and get myself in a better position to find a load going somewhere else. And that's usually not in South Dakota. So you know you're going to be deadheading a little ways. So I wanted to drop that load off on a Thursday and get myself set up somewhere on a Friday morning. And that's what I did. So I made $1,300 going up to South Dakota, just a little over 800 miles. And I made the decision to deadhead towards Chicago. Normally, I hate going through Chicago, but in a little van, a small box truck, it's not that big of a deal. So I started deadheading that way. Highway 90 was close, so I had to detour around. I wasn't really going straight to Chicago. I was just going east. And ended up, before that day was over, I booked a load out of somewhere out of Illinois, coming straight back to Texas, paying $1,200. Perfect little out and back. A lot of people, that's what they're looking for. They want to go spend a day and a half driving out, day and a half driving back, have a good week. Hey, your bills are paid. So $1,200 to come back to Texas, right back toward the house. And the problem with this one was they were telling me that load was going to be 3,500 pounds and it was going to be 12 feet long. So I couldn't book another partial until I actually got over there and figured out how much room I was going to have and how much weight I had to spare. And when I got there, it turned out to be just one oversized pallet that weighed 500 pounds. So I had plenty of room for another partial. And lo and behold, I get on the load board and there's a load on there picking up 100 miles from me. And it's actually delivering on a Saturday morning, which was the next day, and it paid $800, $2 a mile. And I thought, oh, thank you. I booked it, but when talking to the agent, sometimes you get this gut feeling they're not telling you the whole truth. And it's probably the biggest reason you don't see a lot of drama on this channel about canceled loads or waiting at a receiver for 12 hours or rejected loads and all that business, because I follow my gut. If something's telling me this doesn't sound right, I'm just going to bypass it, save myself the trouble. Sometimes I bypass money that way, but in this one, when I was talking to the agent, one of the first things I always tell him is, hey, I'm not dock height. And this guy said, oh, that shouldn't be a problem. Well, shouldn't be is different from is not going to be. I wanted him to call, because that's what a lot of agents do. They say, well, hold on a minute. They'll call and make sure that they'll load me if I'm not dock height. This guy didn't do that. And so I said, well, what are the dimensions? Because I have an oversized pallet in here already. Just want to make sure whatever he had would fit. And he said, oh, it's just a regular pallet, 12 feet long. And I said, what? I don't know of any regular pallets that are 12 feet long. I said, how tall is it? Normal, your normal height. And I said, well, you're not telling me anything. You're making me nervous here. And he said, oh, don't worry. I send box trucks over there all the time. It'll fit. I said, I understand that, but I'm not a regular box truck. So we ended up booking the load. And actually, as soon as I got the information, I started calling ahead. The shipper wasn't answering. I left several messages, ended up calling the receiver, and the receiver said, yeah, we don't unload you unless you're dock height. So I had to return that load, lost out on $800. But here's the point I'm trying to make. People saying, oh, you will go out of business. You can't make any money. Right now is the worst freight market anybody has ever seen. The worst rates, the worst load counts, everything you can think of. I made $2,500 gross for the week. Now, keep in mind, I did a video a couple weeks ago where anything over 41 cents, I make a profit. So if I just make 41 cents a mile, I'm paying my bills for my business. But anything over 41 cents a mile, I'm making a profit. I drove 2,300 miles to make the $2,500. And I spent $500 on fuel. So I brought home $2,000 in basically 4 days. I left on a Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, I was back home. Ended up going on a Monday morning to go over and drop the load off, but that only took a few hours. So Wednesday through Saturday is all I worked to bring home $2,000. Now, of course, I've got bills to pay out of this, but this would pay my whole all of my monthly expenses for my business out of this $2,000 if I wanted to. But if you're getting on the forums and you're thinking about doing this, I see it every day, and I go in there and I put all the information I can to help people out. But you'll see these drivers saying, "Oh, don't do it. You'll go out of business. You'll lose all your money. There's freight market's dead." And don't believe them. I put out my numbers every week to show you it can be done. And so $2,000 a week is nothing to sneeze at. That's a pretty good paycheck. You know, everybody's suffering right now, but the people who are suffering the most are the people who went out and got the pretty trucks, have the high truck payment, the high fuel costs, the high overhead. The people who are surviving better right now are the people who don't have all that high overhead, and they can run on these low rates. And like I said, drivers have nothing to do with freight rates. It's all about supply and demand. Right now, there are 5 trucks for every load. Fuel is high, freight is cheap, and it's tough. This time of year is tough every year, but especially in the economy we're in. So just hang on there. Another month, these rates, load counts will start going up, rates will start going up, and the normal week like this where I made $2,000, it'll be $3,000 in a month and a half, 2 months. So you can do it.